cramming for an exam and you need to learn the material insanely quickly, do not make notes. I repeat, do not make notes. Quick disclaimer though, this is just advice based on my experiences. I'm not saying that this will 100% work for everyone. However, the advice I give may help some people, which is why I'm making this video. Also, this advice is more applicable to STEM subjects. Anyways, let's get straight to the point. Number 1, priming. This method is more helpful for before you even get taught the lesson. However, it's still applicable. Priming is the study technique of just looking at the topic. Like just briefly looking at the topic and then making assumptions on what it's about. I recommend doing this very briefly and just leaving it at that. So like whenever you're about to study for an exam and then you have your textbook, briefly just skim through all the topics. Just look at it and then think about, oh, I wonder what biological molecules is about. I think it has to do with molecules that give you life, etc, etc. And then with that you can cement it, the idea or like the concept of what you're learning into your brain, which is why it's a good technique. However, it's not the most effective, it's not the most useful, but it does work. That's why it's at number 1. Number 2, practice questions. I am now a big advocate on doing practice questions immediately and using it as your main study technique. Why? It is because I believe wholeheartedly that it is the most useful technique. Because number 1, it familiarizes your brain with the structure and type of questions that will show up on the paper, which in return increases your chances of answering the really difficult, absurd questions the exam board likes to add here and there. And 2, you get used to the wording of the mark scheme, which is really important for when you want to pick up the keywords in the exam that give you the marks. And honestly, the more practice questions you do, the more likely you are to feel more at ease in the exam because you're used to answering those type of questions. To be fair though, I get why people tend to avoid doing practice questions. They're a lot harder to do than just writing down what you remember on paper or copying notes from a textbook, which overall just deters people from doing practice questions. However, once you get over that mental barrier of it's too difficult, I can't do it, or I'm getting so many questions wrong, this is embarrassing, then your grades will shoot up. Number 3, an alternative to writing notes. I get that the concept of writing notes is to be able to cover all the topics since practice questions in past papers don't always do that. However, the main problem with note-taking is that people tend to just mindlessly copy down what is written in the textbook or syllabus, which is what we call passive learning. And you probably know from other YouTube videos that passive learning is a major no-no. So instead, I have proposed a different method. I don't know if this has a name or it's just something I made up, but I like to call it contextualizing. It's similar to note-taking, however, you have 3 steps. Number 1, you have a piece of paper, you write down the title of the topic you're studying and underneath that the relevant subtopics. Then underneath each subtopic, you answer the 3 questions. Number 1, what is this about in its simplest terms? 2, what new knowledge did I gain? And 3, how can I link this to something I know before? The first question, the purpose of it is to contextualize what you're learning so that you have a more solid and accurate understanding of what you're learning instead of feeling lost in the mountain of knowledge you have to learn about. Number 2 is recording the topics that you may find the most difficult since it's new and consolidating new knowledge. Number 3 is consolidating the knowledge by linking it to something you know before, which makes the new information you just learned more likely to stick. Afterwards, you basically just have notes, but it's written in a way that's more effective, where you're forced to do some actual active recall to write them. Anyways, that is all for today. If you liked this video, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching. Bye!